So the first video I made about commas was pretty long. Thanks for sitting through it. This one will be shorter. I just want to talk quickly about what I see as the second main use of commas, which is a use that Alex referred to in his video, calling it the extra information use of commas. This is when, and this uses two commas, one as it begins and one as it ends, and then a little packet of additional information is inserted into a sentence. So the metaphor I like to use for this is the idea of a car sort of going along one lane. That's the main sentence. Then you pull into another lane for a minute. There's the extra information. Then you pull back into the lane where you started. So let's look at a few examples here and see what I'm talking about. We can start with Alex's example, which was about Lucy. Lucy, comma, who is a tall woman, comma, climbed the tree. So to follow my metaphor, think of each of these commas as the turning from the momentary turning out of the main lane. You get the new information, then turning back into the main lane. Lucy, who is a tall woman, climbed the tree. Here's another example. I took the baseball hat, which I bought only 2 days earlier, back to the store. Notice that with both of these sentences, if you take out the extra information phrase that's between two commas, the sentence still makes sense. It has less information, but it still is a complete sentence, an SVO, and an independent clause that can stand on its own. I took the baseball hat back to the store. Another example. The rule was used, even though everyone hated it, for many years. Notice that if we take out the extra information phrase, we get the rule was used for many years. It's good to notice that you can put these commas in the wrong place. So you can introduce this extra information phrase in the wrong place. Here's the baseball hat sentence again. Look how odd it would be if you chose to put the extra information after the word the instead of the word hat. I'm looking at the bottom version here after the words out of order. I took the baseball hat back to the, comma, which I bought only 2 days earlier, comma, store. Hopefully everyone can feel that just feels wrong as a rhythm, right? So there is a correct place to put these extra phrases, and it will usually make sense to you right away where that should be if you're going to bring in the extra information phrase. Let's just look at this two versions of the same sentence. The bottom version is the correct one. My niece Keisha, who is now 20 years old, constantly struggled with boredom. And then I follow up with a semicolon sentence here. She was an only child, semicolon. Her mother was a single working parent. Now notice in the first version of the sentence, the only difference is the comma has been moved from right after the word old to after the word constantly. This is actually just a typo that could creep in as you're typing, but notice how much it messes up the meaning. I'm going to read the top sentence now. My niece Keisha, who is now 20 years old constantly, struggled with boredom. So immediately the reader has to try to make sense of what does it mean to be 20 years old constantly? That doesn't even make sense as an idea, yet the way it's written is making the reader it's forcing the reader to think about that possibility. And that all just happens by putting the comma after the wrong word. Let's go back to the bottom version. I'll just say it out loud and you can feel how the rhythm is right here. My niece Keisha, comma, who is now 20 years old, comma, constantly struggled with boredom. Now we're back to good, consistent grammar with that extra information inserted there, who is now 20 years old, pulling out of the main lane, my niece Keisha, into the extra information, who is now 20 years old, pulling back into the main lane, constantly struggled with boredom. All right, I'll leave it there for commas, and we will see you again for a quick video about semicolons.